All right, there we go. So yeah, we've done a number of these community engagement and learning sessions, and they've just all been so wonderful, and I'm so excited to have Lance here today. Before I introduce him, I just wanted to give you a quick a few updates that are coming up, and to also just say, if you haven't been to these listening sessions before, the goal of these are really to learn more about what's happening in our community. The goal is to really have our presenters be community members and people who are doing work here in the region, or things that are just really helpful for us to learn about, so that we can really promote more collaborative activities going forward. So to next month on March 11th from 11 to 12, we have Duncan Griffin, who is an architect and a planner for HDR, which is a firm focused on sustainable building practices. They're actually a private company in Seattle, but they focus on design that's called regenerative design. And so it's a method for thinking about community health and design in the planning and development process. So although they're not local, they do a lot of really relevant work that will be really interesting to learn about. And the talk next month is focusing on developing resilient communities for when the river rises. So it focuses on how to use this regenerative design near flooded areas. So it'll be really exciting to hear about. We also have new sessions that are focused on learning more about what research is happening. So the next one that series will be on March 5th, and you can find all this information on our website, and I will post the link. We also have HCRI research grants. They're small grants, $1,000 to $4,000, and the proposals are due March 1st. That you do have to have a Boise State researcher on the team, but we definitely are encouraging community partners, if they have an idea, to partner up with someone or contact us, and we can help you find a researcher and apply for that grant. So there's still time to do so. All right, so for the next 30 minutes or so, I will turn it over to Lance Davison. He's the owner and principal consultant at the Keystone Concept, an urban natural resource planning firm based out of Boise, Idaho since 2011. Lance has 20 years of experience in leadership, resource management, and community engagement in the public and private sector. Together with a diversity of partners and organizations, Lance has built highly successful teams that are navigating and sustaining organizations, agencies, and impactful programs in communities across the US. In 2013, Lance co-founded the Treasure Valley Canopy Network, a locally funded public-private partnership that is working across the greater Boise metro area to build and advance a more resilient future for all. So I'm really excited to hear more about this, and he will take it away with building climate and community resilience in the city of trees. So go ahead.
Thank you very much, Carson. And thanks for having me today. I get to thank Katie Lemansky for introducing me to Brittany and this team. Man, maybe it was only a month ago, but it seems like it's been a lot longer, because just about, I was telling Carson, as I was putting this presentation together, so much of what we do aligns so well with what HCRI does. So I'm really excited to be building this partnership, working together, and this opportunity to share with you all today. I will let you know that our leader for the City of Trees Challenge, City Council President Elaine Clegg, is on here. Thanks a lot for joining, Elaine. So Elaine will be available to answer questions, and a lot of our other friends as well. Tracy Swift with the Nature Conservancy, several other partners and friends. And we even have some old friends of mine from New Mexico and Colorado that have joined. So this is great. So I'm going to go ahead and tee off the presentation here. Let's do that. And feel free to ask questions. I don't know, Carson, if you said how to ask questions or raise hands or whatever, but I look at this as a conversation. There's definitely time for questions at the end, but if you have questions as we go along, I'm very flexible, and I would rather have a conversation than just stand here and lecture at you. So how do you do that, Carson, as far as questions go?
Yeah, that sounds good. So in the past, we've just waited till the end to ask questions, but if I can monitor the chat too, and if it seems like something's relevant to stop you midway, we can definitely do that. So feel free, if you have questions midway, to pop them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll reconvene kind of at the end and go over stuff.
Perfect. All right. Thank you much. So we'll get going. There we go. So what we're going to do today is talk a bit about how we're building a brighter future for the City of Trees. We're going to talk about a little bit about me, who I am, what I do, and why I do it. I've been told that I'm not really good at sharing that. And so I intentionally do at the beginning so you don't get lost in my excitement of all the stuff we're working on. Then we're going to talk a bit about some local climate action, which fortuitously happened almost a year ago today. With our partnership with Council President Clegg. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the opportunities ahead that we're working on with HCRI and all throughout the community. And I think the most important part is how you all can engage with us. So that's what we'll walk through. A little bit about me. We've lived in Boise for almost 10 years now. I started my career, I went to school at Montana State and Washington State, got a job with the Washington State Department of Natural Resources in Washington State, worked there for 7 years. And during that time, my wife got into medical school. So that took us to New Mexico, where I got to know Santa Fe and Robert Woodwell. Good to see you, Robert. And after 11 years in government, I loved it. I loved working in that interface between public-private. And when we moved to Boise for my wife to take her first job, I decided to hang out my shingle and see what I could do with my own company. And it was very different than a lot of other companies that were out there. So we're having a really fun journey with the Keystone concept. And within the first few months of starting my company, I was asked by the state of Idaho to facilitate a regional urban tree canopy assessment. So that's really how the Treasure Valley Canopy Network was born. And luckily they liked our vision for collaboration. And this year, we're actually be creating the Canopy Network into its own standalone nonprofit. We've partnered with Ecosystem Sciences Foundations for about 4 years now to be our parent nonprofit. And they're an awesome partner. We work with them all the time. And the vision was always to evolve into our own nonprofit. So it's an exciting and busy time this year doing that. A little bit about my background before we moved to Boise. Like I said, Washington State, Montana, New Mexico. I grew up a little swimming kid in an agricultural community, worked on farms and ranches. My parents are teachers and coaches. And so that's a lot of what you'll see through what I do, being a student, leader, and teacher. I love doing that stuff. So, and I like to raft a little bit too, which is what brought us to Idaho. I guess a job too, but it's the whitewater capital of the country. Why we do what we do. The Keystone concept is my company and I don't do anything alone. So you'll notice I almost always say we. I love building teams and leading those teams and being a member of those teams. We're really finding a way to transform how land management and community development happen through an innovative, fun, and collaborative approach. I learned years ago when I was way too serious that I want to have fun doing this. And so there's plenty of good, fun work to be done out there. And I'm excited to engage in anything that does that. We have a lot that we do through sustainability, all the way from even individual coaching up to organizationals and building teams. We're involved a lot in the ag and forest industries, and we do landscape scale planning. I'd encourage, if you're interested in looking at the dollars and cents of what a piece of land is worth for recreation, for production, for all those key pieces, which we call ecosystem services, to look at the work we just finished in city of Snoqualmie, Washington. At the end of that project, we were able to help them get their whole program funded by stormwater management fees. So that was a pretty exciting project that we're now doing similar work all across Idaho. I love organizational development, having worked in government for years, and love facilitating meetings and things like that as well. So that's a bit about what the Keystone concept does. And like I mentioned, the Canopy Network is a great opportunity for us to use all our skills to build something right where we live. So we're really focused on public-private partnerships, leveraging opportunities, and shining a light on all the great stuff that Boise's doing and all of the Treasure Valley, and bringing our relationships and resources at a national level into here. Oh, we got Chris, perfect. So when I was asked to talk here, I talked to Brittany and I said, tell me a bit about what HCRI is and what you do. And so she laid out your guys' 4 pillars of natural environment, infrastructure in the built environment, health and well-being, and economy and society. And it aligns perfectly with all that we do. So what I thought I'd do with this presentation is we're going to go through each of those pillars and what we're doing within those pillars with the Canopy Network, which our mission is framed in 3 tenets. To be collaborative, you'll notice that we're not your typical tree nonprofit that's going to go tie ourselves to a tree that's going to be tied down and let them cut it down. We are problem solvers. We're collaborators. We want to be invited to the table, whether you're going to plant a tree or take it down or plan the next urban park. We tend to be innovative. I get a little bit bored with the same old, so we're always looking at innovative opportunities to do new things that build value in our community. And we want to build things that are sustainable as well, not only from a funding source, but also have that community investment to have a long impact over time. So the natural environment, a few things that we're doing there. You're going to hear a lot about City of Trees Challenge, and that'll be our focus towards the end of the presentation. But one of the investments in the natural environment is not only are we planting 100,000 urban trees within City of Boise, and that is one for every homeowner. We're planting 235,000 forest seedlings all throughout Idaho forests by 2030. And this is a credit to the vision that Council President Clegg had of bridging urban and rural opportunities. The small City of Trees is going to lead this effort that's going to grow even bigger than the City of Trees. And so we're not only influencing what's happening in the city where we live, but also all across the state. And we're also going to have all our trees that are planted impact certified through the City Forest Credits Program, which is a national carbon registry. That's very exciting to us because it's a cutting edge thing in urban forestry. We've worked in urban forestry for maybe 15 years, and it finally is finding a way to market credits locally that your trees produce for carbon, water quality, air quality, and actually have a buyer out there purchase those credits so we can reinvest that into tree planting. So again, being innovative, we work together with the Nature Conservancy and Ecosystem Sciences Foundation 3 or 4 years ago to come up with a carbon assessment for all the Treasure Valley. And that's really where our partnership with the Nature Conservancy started to grow. And at the conclusion of that, we wanted something tangible to work on. And so what we found was this City Forest Credits project with some friends out of Seattle. And that City Forest Credits program has really grown over the last few years. And we have a partnership piloting how this would work in Boise with the cities of Nampa and Boise to be able to actually get a buyer for our carbon credits. So the good news is that we've had these credits on the marketplace for about 3 years now, but we finally have a buyer that's interested. So now we're getting our hands dirty with City of Boise and City of Nampa to actually execute agreements with the cities where the Canopy Network helps foster those agreements. And then we will actually get a carbon buyer who I'm not going to announce right now, but we're excited to announce that when it's all official. And they will invest money. The cities will get paid. The Canopy Network will get paid to reinvest in tree planting to plant more trees across the Treasure Valley. Infrastructure in the built environment. Our first project, once we completed that tree canopy assessment, our first federal grant that we got was to create Idaho Power's Treasure Valley Shade Tree Project. It has been the most successful foundational project that has come out of the Treasure Valley Canopy Network. Really a credit to our friends at Idaho Power. They, from the beginning, have been interested in creating a defensible energy conservation program that plants trees, gives away trees to residents, but plants trees in the right place to the west side of their homes to reduce peak season energy use. I will tell you there are a lot of these throughout the country, but Idaho Power is the only one that is actually doing the math and the work to make sure that this is an efficient program and that we really document the energy reduction benefits. And so we love working with them. They now fund that themselves, but we still partner and help them with that. And there's been 13,000 trees planted since 2013 in 17 Idaho counties. So it's a perfect example of bringing in federal investment and growing that all throughout the state of Idaho. The other fun part is helping downtown Boise basically create their whole infrastructure into an urban park. About 5 or 6 years ago, the city forester, Brian Jorgensen, had been talking to city leadership for a long time about, hey, if we're going to plant trees in downtown, we need to make sure that we have enough soil volume so that they're going to grow and thrive. Because unfortunately, putting trees in these small tree coffins ends up, they die after about 10 years. So about the time that they would start building benefits and really making a benefit to the city, they are ending their life. And so to the city of Boise's leadership credit and Capital City Development Corporation, now in most downtown streetscape construction, they are doing suspended pavement systems with Silvacell type technology. So you've seen like the Central Edition Live District, Boise Grove, Idaho, 11th and Idaho right now is doing an urban park. And the fun thing to me about this story is we've done some webinars with Deeproot, who sells and helps with the installation of the suspended pavement systems. It's a great story of how an idea was planted, leadership grasped onto it, and we were able to help form and evolve the streetscape standards. But even once all that was set, once they started installing them, there was challenges with like how the contractors installed them, how the business owners were impacted by it. But because of our collaboration and relationships, now the contractors are doing an amazing job. They understand the benefit of this investment that is essentially investing a lot of money underground that nobody's ever going to see. But now we're starting to see how much these trees thrive. They also process stormwater, so the city gets credit for the stormwater process for their EPA permit. It's just a great story of collaboration that we like to tell, and it's transforming our city as we live and breathe. So that's really exciting. The other part is we partnered with Portland State University and Kappa Heat Watch on an urban heat study as part of a project called Canopy Continuum. And that started about 5 years ago. They are researching, we have air quality monitors all around the Treasure Valley that are looking at particulate matter, all the different air quality metrics. They did an urban heat study with us, and they're also looking at human health. And they're going to bring all those together with, I think it's 11 other Western cities, and Boise is part of that, to look at the impacts of tree canopy and urban heat and air quality on human health. So what we were able to do, volunteering to be a part of that, is we were able to get the urban heat data that is now informing where we plant trees and why we plant them. So I'd encourage you to go to our website and look at our mapping tools, and you can see a really cool, it's a story map that we created in partnership with Boise's Climate Division and Ecosystem Sciences to help share that story of how it is heating up in the city of trees, but we're using trees to solve those problems and challenges. For human health and well-being, I'm glad I saw Chris jump on here. This is a really good story of the Canopy Network wasn't directly involved in making this happen, but our partnerships brought together some great consultants to do a community development analysis for the city of Boise. So Vitruvian Planning partnered up with Ecosystem Sciences to use their knowledge of doing health impact assessments, use all the valuable data that we've created to build the tools for us to focus on where we're having issues and challenges with equity in our community, whether it's for housing or development, and then use that data to inform the right management going forward. So that's a tool that the city is using now. And it's also, as I'll show you later, building into the City of Trees Challenge. We have a lot of really valuable data and tools that help us decide, it's great to be planting 100,000 trees, but where is it needed most to address equity, to build a city for all? So the other piece as we branch into City of Trees Challenge is this map, which Brittany encouraged me to put in here for all the data wonks out there. It shows all broken up by all the neighborhoods in the city of Boise, what the tree canopy levels look like, and then how urban heat interacts with that. So a lot of data that helps us inform and engage the community in planting trees where they're needed most for low tree canopy and high urban heat. And finally, economy and society. I think being a public-private person, this is one of the most exciting things that we're building is a regional urban wood network. So like I said, if a tree needs to come down, I live in the north end, a lot of very large trees are getting towards the end of our age. I think it's time to make sure that we're getting that into a healthy and thriving urban wood economy. So we're building partnerships with people that make really cool tables, desks, chairs, all kinds of furniture and artwork. And I'd encourage you to go to our website and look. We created some videos that tell the story. We partner with North End Neighborhood Association, City of Boise, Live Edge Slab Works actually comes out on site and cuts slabs out of these trees in large chunks, and then is able to treat those and put them in the kiln so that partners like Urban Forestry Products and Heart of Timber, who we partnered with, can create really cool tables and chairs out of those. So it's a lot of fun. It's just starting to grow. And we received a federal grant to take this little incubator we started in the Canopy network and grow it statewide. So we'll be doing that this year. The other really fun project, like I said, I like to have fun. Lost Grove Brewing reached out to us a while ago and they were like, you know, we are very sustainable. We are invested in our community. We want to tell our story more. Can you help us learn about B corporations? And we're interested in just learning and working together with you. So that has really developed into a great partnership where last year, pre-COVID, we envisioned a regional brew fest. And so this group got together, we engaged the green industry, our friends at Bitter Creek, who we've worked with for a long time in Lost Grove, and we launched Shade City 2020, which had to pivot to an online format, but it still was good. And we're now gearing up for what 2021 looks like. So it's really fun. Boise is so great at grassroots opportunities. And if we can do it, sharing stories around beer and talking about trees, then we're going to do that. So keep your eyes open for our next Shade City event coming up. So that is the 4 pillars. How did we do, HCRI? Does it follow? Does it track?
It's great.
I'm
Love it.
So let's dive into the City of Trees Challenge. Like I said, 100,000 urban trees, 235,000 forest seedlings. We have 3 key leaders in this partnership, the City of Boise and the Treasure Valley Canopy Network. And then the Nature Conservancy in Idaho is helping us figure out how to plant these 235,000 forest seedlings. So it's been a lot of fun. We've worked with these partners for many years. So this is a great opportunity to shine the light on what we do. And in standard fashion, a lot of long-term partners stepped up to join us. Jaker Ree Wholesale Nursery helps us secure a lot of our trees. Boise Farmers Market was a new partner that we didn't know how we were going to give away these 500 trees in a COVID environment. We've worked with Idaho Power before to do large tree events, but we couldn't do it to that scale. And Boise Farmers Market, Dave Crick and the whole team there was amazing. They brought us under their fold. We were able to use their system, partner with them. I volunteered beyond the City of Trees Challenge with them. It's an amazing organization. So we're going to continue building on that partnership. Idaho Power, I'm happy to announce, is going to be doing their shade tree project this year. It's going to be different. Unfortunately, there won't be in-person opportunities, but they're going to use a different way to distribute trees, but they're a huge partner, and those trees in Boise will be counted for the challenge. And then we're really excited with Idaho Nursery and Landscape Association this year. We're going to be partnering with local nurseries to make sure that 100,000 trees is a lot of trees. So we've got to count every single tree possible and infuse more trees into being planted in order to get there. So INLA is going to help us do that with their member nurseries, and you'll see a lot out there out spring with them. So 2020, right? I was looking back actually yesterday, and I knew that Elaine Clegg had met with Don Day and Boise Dev, and done a highlight. I think it was before COVID, so it might have been an in-person interview, but she planted the seed of this vision of the City of Trees Challenge, and it was on Valentine's Day. So almost a year ago today, on Valentine's Day, with the love she has for this city and for trees, she planted the seed of City of Trees Challenge. And I didn't hear about it before that, but I heard about it very quickly afterward when Elaine sent me a message, I think it was a voicemail message that I actually received while I was sitting with a lot of our partners that were saying, what is this? This is really exciting, but it's really scary. I don't know if we can do it. And so I said, wait, I'll talk to Elaine. I bet we can do it. I know we can do this. And so sure enough, there was a message on my phone. She said, Lance, we would really like the help of the Canopy Network in making this happen. The city can't do it alone. So off and running, really excited, building the platform. And then COVID-19 happened to all of us. And so we said, okay, can this still work, right? We're talking about city investment in trees. The good thing is yes, it can work, because this gave not only us as a team hope, because this is a time when everybody's dealing with very difficult challenges. I can't imagine, as I've watched what city leadership has done to bring us all together with COVID-19, what their days looked like. And Elaine will continue to tell you that this is a seed of hope within her day when we spend time together. So we pivoted a little bit on our messaging, but it still flowed very well with what we're doing. This is about community resilience. This is about building opportunities. And so we continue to make it happen even in the middle of COVID-19. So on Earth Day, we launched this thing. The city of Boise launched the challenge with City of Forester, Mike Andrews and Elaine Clegg. They have some videos that you can check out on our website. And at the same time, we launched our partnership with Arbor Day Foundation and the United Nations for a tree city of the world. So not only is Boise leading locally, but they're leading internationally as a tree city of the world. In the first batch of those tree cities, by the way, as well. So Boise's not afraid to lead, and we're excited about that. Launched it, that was awesome, got a lot of awareness around it, and then we really got our hands dirty and started to plan, partner, and build, meeting frequently, planning for how do we help infuse resources into this. Ultimately, we ended up purchasing 500 trees to get out to City of Boise residents, and throughout that process, we discovered the Trillion Trees platform with our friends at American Forests and 1T.org, and so it aligned so perfectly with what we're doing to show the impact that we're making and grow it internationally. And so we now are a partner in 1T.org. Again, Boise's a leader, one of the first cities to adopt that. So that was unveiled at some point throughout the summer before the fall. We gave away those 500 trees with Boise's Farmers Market. And all throughout that, we were planning with the Nature Conservancy how we're going to make this happen with next year planting forest seedlings. And so we secured an Arbor Day Foundation grant to plant 37,000 trees in Boise National Forest coming up this spring. So that'll be happening, and a huge success to get national funding into our region to help support it. So that's what year one looked like. And I'd encourage you to take a look at our impact report. You're going to notice it's about more than just counting trees. We want to have an impact. We're involved locally and at a national and international stage. You're going to notice that we need the public's help. We planted 600 trees on public property last year and 1,500, 1,600 trees on private property. Only about a third of the trees in the city are on public property. So we're going to lead, and we're going to plant more trees on public property, but we need help from the citizens. And we're going to capture that impact in terms of ecosystem services and how it benefits our local climate. A little bit about what to expect in 2021. We haven't set a direct tree target goal, but we are gaining funding and building. We know it'll be over 2,000. And if you're doing the math, 100,000, we've got to really step it up. So we're working really hard to do that. Not only is the city investing funding and resources into this, but what I like about this is it's about more than planting trees. So if we're going to plant these trees, let's invest in caring for those trees. So we're investing in the community forestry program and their resources to make sure that they can steward and grow these trees over time. You'll notice from our impact report that they are enhancing their tree inventory. They are enhancing their staffing levels. We're enhancing the tools that we're going to be able to use to track the impact that the challenge has on the community here, and then build a platform to go regionally and nationally. Our community partner investments are big, a lot of opportunities with Boise State, talked about what TNC is helping us build, INLA. And if you know of any private companies that are interested in partnering with us, we actually have a tree care company that's talking about joining the challenge. The forest industry has been talking to us about supporting the challenge. And the other piece that I love, having done this nationally for years and years, is we're getting national resources to shine a light on the City of Trees and also help us bring in some funding resources. So, and the last plug is we're going to be going regionally, statewide, and nationally as we kind of unveil things. Really, you're going to see a big splash when it comes to Arbor Day and Earth Day this year. So how can you join us? Go to cityofTreeschallenge.org. If you have planted a tree since January 1st of 2020, you can still sign up that tree to join the challenge. We're using a current crowdsourcing platform right now that the city is learning from, and then building an even more robust platform that's going to come out on Earth Day, Arbor Day this year. I'd encourage you to support the challenge by joining our cause. If you're familiar with Cause, it's a local giving app. We've done a few things with them, and we now have a City of Trees Challenge cause. So if you can't plant a tree, you can donate to planting a tree and supporting our efforts. So go there and watch that grow. Connect and engage with us. The Canopy Network and Boise Parks and Recreation has a social media presence, and we're constantly learning how to share what we're doing, connect with our communities and our neighborhoods. And if you're interested in helping, reach out, shoot me an email. We need more community partners. We need more resources to make this happen. What I love is this is a 10-year challenge. So we're learning as we grow, and we built really solid foundation and roots that are now starting to grow after 2020. So I'd like an opportunity to chat with you all and look at, and I'm willing to talk about anything, what we do as a company, what we're doing with the City of Trees Challenge and the Canopy Network. I think Brittany and I are starting to talk about how we can partner with HCRI and align research and practice. You'll notice that we partnered with Portland State University on some great things because of relationships, and the CAN has really opened on the opportunities with Boise State this year with what we're doing with your environmental studies department, service learning. So I think we can help you on the practice side of things and really collaborate towards some collective impact locally. And I encourage you all to join and support the City of Trees Challenge.
Thank you. That was awesome. Thanks, Lance. And maybe if for the question and answer, if you want to stop the screen sharing, and then we can see people if they want to.
Perfect.
Want to show us their faces.
Like
and also, before we get into questions, I forgot to launch this poll at the beginning, but it's always fun to kind of see where folks are coming from. So I'm going to launch a quick poll before we do questions. So would love to hear where everybody is coming from who's here in the meeting today. And I will just give it a minute or so. Lance, that was such a great presentation. It just makes me feel really excited for what's to come. I think it's going to be great. So yeah, while we're kind of waiting for the polls to come in, I think actually looks like everybody's pretty much there. All right, so we got a good government presence, kind of a mix here. That's great. Private, nonprofit.
I like it.
Cool. Oh, did I not share the results? I don't know if I did. Okay, there we did. Can you see it?
I just shared them.
Oh, thanks, Britt. Yeah.
I think. Can you see them?
Tech savvy. Yeah, it looks good. All right, so yeah, so I guess I wanted to just start, and then I'll open it up to other folks. I'm sure there's plenty of questions here. But one thing that just struck me is how you've just built this really amazing network with so many different people, and I'd love to hear kind of more about your thoughts on like how you kind of start that process of building this network. And I think we have a lot to learn from you guys and other people who are doing work like this about just building a network that is sustainable to long term.
That's a great question. And ultimately for me, I think it's about relationships. When I was hired by the Idaho Department of Lands for the Canopy assessment, they knew that I was really collaborative in what I did. And the reason actually I started this company was I worked in government for a long time, and we would do studies and research. We would get grants and invest in things, and we'd kind of go through the motions, and there would be a lot of energy around creating a report or whatever. And then afterward, people would be kind of tired, and then they'd put the report on the shelf. And then I was around long enough to be in meetings where people would say, we should do a tree canopy assessment. And somebody would say, well, we did that 5 years ago. Like, here, let's dust it off the shelf, and here you go. So selfishly, ironically, I went into natural resources because I wanted to be out with wildlife and working with farmers and ranchers and in the forest. But ultimately it's about people, and nothing really gets done if you don't engage people. And so kind of our philosophy, and it's hard because people don't typically pay for real true engagement with stakeholders to make it happen. So, and the system hasn't been built that way, but luckily we were able to have this kind of incubator through the urban tree canopy assessment to do it. And so we had a lot of invested partners to make sure that this assessment was invested in. And then afterward, the state said, Lance, we like what you're doing. We don't know where it's going to go, but we're going to invest in this. And so if we didn't have that funding infusion, it probably, maybe not, but it definitely wouldn't have kicked off as quick as it did for me to host quarterly meetings, to create a website. And for me, it was just a great incubator to grow all this. And we wanted public, private, nonprofit. We found that the public people were really excited to come in and talk about things and share ideas. But the engine really became the private industry that said, if that's something that Boise wants to do, we can do that. We can do a stormwater assessment for them. We can do some GIS and data analysis for them. And so we would have these meetings and kind of share what was going on. And it helped with green stormwater infrastructure. Ada County Highway District's a big partner. And so ultimately it's about the relationships and building all those pieces and then finding the funding. Now you'll notice that we leverage a ton of volunteer time and commitment. We don't have enough money coming in right now to sustain the network long-term. So we need more people to rise to the occasion, like cities of Boise and Nampa, like the Nature Conservancy and Idaho Power, to make that happen. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I think that touches on a lot of stuff that resonates for us for sure. So yeah, so let's just go ahead and open it up. I know we have a lot of great folks here in the audience. So if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat or unmute
It looks
yourself.
like in the chat, Tracy was rocking it. Thank you, Tracy. The story map's in there. There's a bunch of good links. So if you guys save the chat and send it out, you can see a bunch of good stuff. Somebody's got to have questions. Elaine, would you like to say anything?
Oh, it looks like Alexa. We'll do that and then we'll let Elaine go.
Sure.
Great.
Yeah, when it comes to resiliency, I also think of, the opposite of planting trees is also considering wildfires. So I'm kind of curious, like, what type of relationships you've created around that, because I know, like, while planting something, we also want to make sure that 5 years from now, that whole forest that we planted isn't also going to be burned up in a wildfire. So is there any connection there?
Definitely. So in my government years, I fought fire for like 15 years and very much understand fire on the landscape, the value of that and the risk of that. And so in our urban interface areas, it's great to see the partnerships and the wildland urban interface thinning and activities that City of Boise does, a lot of the investments from the RC&D. So there are a lot of education and resources out there about that. And I do think when you see like what's going on in California, it's a challenge, right? When you're growing green infrastructure in your cities in a dry, semi-arid environment, like fire is a reality. So we're actively involved and engaged with City of Boise and the communities on planning that, like fire response, making sure that you are managing your natural areas and not just letting them get too overpopulated with dead and down and everything. It's a complex balance. I think I learned even back in high school when I was interested in this, that natural areas are important. You don't want everything to be manicured like a park, but you need to have a balance in there. And so it's fun to watch how an area like this that's growing with great green infrastructure with the river going through town, of how do we let that be wild, but also manage it when it comes to wildfire. So it's always at the forefront of our consciousness. I've heard talk about maybe putting fire on the landscape, which is always challenging, but we're getting our hands dirty figuring out all those challenges and issues.
And I'll add a little bit to that. I think a couple of things are important. One is that urban areas do need to have good wildland urban interface activities, practices, and codes, laws around it. And I note that many of the places that burned over the last couple of years really didn't have those practices in place. And so once a fire gets into an urban area, it has the same, if not even increased dynamics as it does in the wildlands. So, the city of Boise has done a lot to really focus on the WUI around the edges of the city. The other thing I'll note, my personal history is a family of loggers, at least on my mother's side. They came from Minneapolis, maybe some of the first climate refugees, or Minnesota, when the forests of northern Minnesota burned down. They lived in a city of 8,000 people that burned to the ground. And they moved to Idaho in 1915 to open logging on West Mountain in Round Valley. They lived on a railroad siding in Cabarton in a boxcar for the first 8 years that they were here. And my grandfather's job was to decide which trees to cut. Now, they cut an awful lot of our big, old growth trees, but that's also the one forest in this region that's been, it was private. It was managed ultimately by Boise Cascade, that I think has been one of the best managed forests. They cut it regularly, but they didn't overcut it. When they cut it, they cut the right trees and kept the underbrush down. And that forest is still really healthy today. So as we plant these 37,000 seedlings and the other trees that we'll plant out in the forest, I want to be really mindful that we do it in a way that creates a healthy forest. Right now we have many pockets that are not very healthy. They're overgrown. And frankly, the trees are not as healthy because there's too many of them per acre, those kinds of things. So I think there's a lot we can do as we do these efforts to make sure that we're talking about how to manage the forest correctly as well.
Very well said. There was a question in here about urban soil health, and I think that's a good one. I mentioned the Silva cells and the suspended pavement system. So what that does is it basically, if you can follow us on social media, they're doing that 11th and Idaho Urban Park right now. And it shows you what those look like. It's kind of like milk crates stacked up. So it creates more soil volume, and they also put higher quality soil within those for trees to grow in. So soil is a very important part. You're exactly right. And turns out that urban soils aren't always the healthiest of soils because of all the impact of development that's been on top of them. So yeah, soil is at the forefront of our thoughts. And also, I'd encourage you to look at our Treasure Valley tree selection guide. It's online on our website. It helps you understand what trees to plant where in the Treasure Valley, and it takes soils into account as well. So soils is a great question.
And we did, by the way, with the trees that we gave away at the market, at least for as long as we had the bags available, we gave away a bag of compost with each of those and asked people to plant them with the compost. You bring up a good point. It's not just the quality of the soil, but how much organic material it has in it that creates air capacity and water capacity in the soil so that everything is healthier. So yeah, we as a city have way more compost than we ever anticipated when we started our composting project. And we are continuing to look at ways that we can partner with the City of Trees Challenge and our compost to make sure that when people plant these trees, they're in good soil.
Yeah, it's been a really fun partnership, like I said, with Boise Farmers Market. And if you haven't been to Boise Community Forestry before, they have a huge pile of whole tree mulch. So plenty of resource that we can find more ways to get it into the hands of people for planting their trees.
Awesome. It looks like Mitch Sampson had a question / comment. New York Times released a great article. It looks like it's on city heat islands and neighborhoods that suffer from heat more than others, many times being underserved and more minority populations. Is this difference being factored into the city tree planting plans?
It
Yes.
is. You want to do this, Lance, or do you want me to?
Go for it, and I can dovetail off it.
Okay, so Lance mentioned the study that Vitruvian did with ecosystem sciences for the city. And part of that study was to identify the neighborhoods that were impacted, not just physically, but in terms of the air quality and those kinds of things, but physically in terms of how it impacted the people who lived there. And we do have some neighborhoods who have much higher impacts than others. They're warmer, they have worse air quality, and they have worse health outcomes. And so of the 500 we planted last fall, 100 were focused on those neighborhoods. We're gonna do another 100 this spring in those two neighborhoods. And then as we grow this program, we're looking to expand the equity focus of it to ensure, you saw that one slide that Lance showed that where we have the least tree canopy, we have the most heat. If we put another layer on that slide, you'd also see that we also have the worst health outcomes. And so really being focused on making that much more level across the city. We don't want less tree canopy in the north and east end, but we want as much of that tree canopy everywhere, at least to the extent that we can get it. And much of that will be focused on equity, because many of those neighborhoods are the ones that are struggling with other risk factors.
Well said, Elaine. And what's been fun here is, like I mentioned, the national relationships and conversation. American Forest, for example, came up with a tree equity score that focuses on several different communities. And we talked with them. And when we went through it, a lot of what we're building in Boise is even more robust. So we're taking our data that we currently have, and we have a really awesome IT team that's building the tools for us. And it's taking the data that we collected in 2013 and adding on a lot of other data sources, like what Vitruvian did, what Ecosystem Sciences has done, what the Climate Division is working on. So we're going to have really cutting edge tools to support it. And we're also working with a lot of our national partners to help leverage those resources and opportunities. We just got off the phone with our friends at the Davey Institute, who created iTree in a large national partnership, and they're helping us to make sure that our tools are cutting edge and really going to show the impact that these trees are having as we measure that over time. So it's fun how it all comes together. We're using sound data to drive it. And I think one of our biggest challenges is, how do we best engage with the community to serve those areas of need? And so luckily we have Cities of Good has great relationships, the neighborhood associations. So I'm excited, and I'm not going to spoil the surprise, but there's a lot that we're going to unveil through the work that we've been doing this spring on how we can better address having a Boise for all. And it's fun.
And that's one way that many of you can get involved. We are going to need volunteers in those neighborhoods. Likely, we're looking at a model where instead of asking them to come pick up a tree and go plant it, that we identify the folks who could use a tree, and then we identify a volunteer team who can deliver and plant it for them. So I think in some cases, if you're interested in getting involved, that's going to be one of the really fun ways to do that.
That's exciting. HRI would be happy to promote and connect people to that. So let us know when that starts, and we'll definitely put it out there. It looks like Amber has her hand up. So go ahead, Amber.
I'm totally delighted by all of this because I know Lance and I've known Lance for years, and my background is in community forestry before I got into sustainability consulting. So it's absolutely delightful. And so a couple of questions I had was, I saw that you mentioned some of the large buyers for carbon, and I know, Lance, we've been kind of chatting about how to bring that to the forefront, and I've been having conversations with Davey about what iTree could do to become some sort of platform for that carbon accounting on a large scale. So I'm curious, I have a few clients that are already looking for carbon credits, and so I'm kind of going, well, what if we had some sort of kind of forest carbon trading program going on, so it's not just one buyer who's buying it, and then you can buy and sell and trade credits, and creating that local carbon store trading setup is one question. And like, what can we do to start building that conversation? Because I think there's a huge opportunity there.
Yeah.
So just kind of putting that little like, hey, let's talk more about this. And bring a bigger conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be talking in a few weeks about the details of that. So what's been fun is we knew when we started this that it was going to be challenging, and we really wanted to find a local buyer. That's why we created a pilot, right? We said, we know this is out there, but let's pilot it. And so we've had our ups and downs and challenges of even getting cities to buy into it, but we've got a committed Boise and a committed Nampa to make it happen. And what's been fun about through that whole journey is I met with a ton of people that are like, yeah, I can get carbon credits for $5 a credit. Like, I'm not going to pay $20 a credit. It's just not, it's not enough bang for my buck. But things have changed in the marketplace now to where we had a buyer actually approach us, not a local buyer, maybe someday we'll get that, but a buyer at an international level say, we really like, this is kind of the icing on top of a portfolio when it comes to carbon credits. And people are going to get, we're willing to pay upwards of maybe $20. Like, let's test the marketplace a little bit. So the fact that we have a buyer is awesome. And then I think you might have a few more. It's a pilot, right? If this pilot works, we want a program. And so we want to be able to have cities sign up their trees. The big thing is, like, Idaho Power's program is planted at individual homeowners. That's not going to work. We need something where we can guarantee for 20, 30 years that everything's going to get taken care of. So I'm really excited that in the span of 5 years, it's gone from we're begging people to get credits and to buy credits to now people are coming to us. So there's a ton of opportunity there. And Boise, I know, is building as well. So.
And I know that, you're very familiar with the community forestry models, but just, having spent time with tree people and Friends of the Urban Forest and the other, NGOs that do community forestry, I love the community Saturday plantings, and how that model works is just really inspiring and very exciting. And I think it's one of my favorite things I've ever done is go out and plant trees on a Saturday morning with an entire neighborhood, and working with, communities in South Central LA, and the storytelling that comes around that is just absolutely fantastic. So
it's fun to be on that here.
Well, and it heals neighborhoods that are struggling, and that's exciting. So I'm excited for us to be able to be supportive and involved, and count us in for support.
Sweet. Thanks, Amber. And the other fun thing is the city of Boise is leading at a climate level. So not only are we doing that in the nonprofit private realm, but we have a city that's willing to take the lead and develop some innovative opportunities for carbon. So, I mean, opportunities are abound right now. How are we looking, Carson?
We're good. We got a couple more questions in here. We only have 5 more minutes. So let's see. Luke wants to know, are there any plans to treat wastewater with some of the projects you're working on?
Maybe Elaine can talk a little bit to that on what City of Boise is doing as far as wastewater.
Yeah, we can. We've started really paying attention to our stormwater. As with many of things in the city of Boise, we don't control it. The storm drains are controlled by ACHD, but we've partnered with them in a couple of places. Probably the most visible at this point is the Live District on Broad Street. So the old central addition between the connector, the two pieces of the connector west of Broadway there. And in that district, we partnered with them to put green stormwater drainage in the parking areas and also in the tree lawns. And we're actually treating drainage from the roofs of the buildings as well as from the street in those. That was an outfall that used to go directly into the river. And if you held a gallon jug under that outfall and then let it settle out, you typically have an inch of sludge in the bottom of it. That doesn't happen anymore because of that project. So there's a ton more opportunities to do that same thing. ACHD is beginning to understand that big detention bonds that they have to go dredge and so forth really aren't the best way to go, because not only is there cost involved in doing all of that, but the water quality in those detention ponds has shown to be really not very good. In some cases have E. coli and other things in them. So they're slowly developing their own storm drain program that is trending more and more toward green storm drainage. I'm also dipping my little tiny toe into the water with ITD to talk about places along the interstate as it runs through Boise where they have storm drainage facilities, and whether or not we could actually plant trees in those and make them healthier, better places. In a couple of cases, if we could do that, we could also perhaps contribute to the ability of those trees to absorb some of the particulates that otherwise will get into the neighborhoods next to those interstate facilities. So it's just the beginning. It's not the end, but we're certainly much more aware of how plants in general and trees specifically can absorb a lot of the pollutants that end up in our storm drainage and clean that water before it gets back into the river or other facility.
That's really exciting. Oh, I hear some feedback. Yeah, so we pretty much are out of time, but I did want to just quickly say that I thought, Lance, it was great that you also brought up the point of having fun with the work that you're doing, and that's a big component. So I guess my last maybe quick question is what are you most excited about and looking forward to in these next 5 years or so?
For sure. I just put in the chat, our friends from Forest Proud are on today, and we just within the last hour executed an opportunity to partner with them. So check out the chat and look at what they're doing. I think what I'm most excited about is, this opportunity to work with Boise for 10 years on the City of Trees Challenge and help them work all the way from mayor and council to the folks down on the ground. It's been fun to build that partnership. I just look forward to growing more business opportunities to help our community and to have fun doing it. So I think HCRI is going to be a big part of that, which makes me really happy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, both Elaine and Lance, for being here and answering questions. We really loved your presentation, and we're really excited to partner going forward. So thank you very much. And yeah, come to our next listening session, which will be next month, or our research session as well. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Stay healthy and safe. Bye-bye.